Good morning, good afternoon, or good night, wherever you are tuning in from. This is BS Buddies Podcast. I'm your host, Joe. That's your host, Ian. And today, we're going to look up a list of just random stuff. Ian, can you tell the audience exactly what we're looking up
Well,
and discussing?
how's, yes. How's it going, everybody? I hope the weather's wonderful for you out there. Felt like I had to bring that up. It's beautiful here. Joe asked me to use some of my brain power, which unfortunately it wasn't available at the moment. I used all two of my brain cells yesterday when I was figuring out how to make cereal, like in the bowl with the milk. It's a difficult process. Anyways, uh, so I didn't have any extra brain power to spare for it. So we decided for some funsies today to give you guys some easy entertainment to digest. We have some of the most infamous hoaxes in history to start us out with that we're going to read through here, Joe. I will tell you about them, and you know what? Maybe along the way we'll create some hoaxes of our own, Joe. Who knows where this can go? We might get some ideas. We might be the next great con artists of the 21st century, huh?
Oh boy. Well,
You
before that happens, we better read some hoaxes that I don't even know how it happened, but
you look you look
just
skeptical, Joe.
I'm very skeptical because you've read off a couple
Well, you
before
know
we
what?
started.
I will keep us ready to look up some more information about some of these if the little snippets that they give us aren't quite a lot. Starting us off here at number 1 is the donation of Constantine. So the donation of Constantine was a hoax during the Middle Ages, and it consisted of a Roman imperial decree that was forged detailing 4th century Emperor Constantine the Great gifting the authority of Rome over to the Pope. And it tells the story of the emperor's conversion to Christianity and how the Pope cured him of leprosy. Quite an impressive feat, I might say.
So hold on,
As
hold on. I just want to make sure I'm following. He just gave Rome to the Pope and said, "Hey, just take the whole thing. It's all yours."
Basically, yes. At least that's what this
The
forged
hoax.
document. Yes, that's what this forged document claims to be, and it also details how he decided to turn to the Lord and the Pope cured him of leprosy, which I'm sure was crucial in convincing the masses that this is actually what had happened. As a result, it was used by the is it papacy? Papacy? I'm not sure how to say
Sure.
that word. Papacy. Papacy. Used by a posse in the 13th century to support claims of political authority and had a huge influence upon politics and religion in medieval Europe. However, in the 15th century, Italian Catholic priest and Renaissance humanist Lorenzo Valla exposed the forgery via extensive language based arguments. Wow, that's a lot of word salad. However, the document's authenticity have been questioned since the year 1001 AD. Wait a minute.
So,
So let me get this straight. Since like the year 300.
wait,
Okay, wait.
wasn't it 13th century?
Well, it starts out, it says in the 4th century. So that would be like in the 300s. And then, yeah, it was
Oh, it
used
didn't get
in the,
solved until like 1400.
yeah, it was used in the 1200s for them to take over Rome. And then it wasn't solved until the 1400s. That's a big gap. That's a
so,
really big gap in between.
so there was like a
You know,
rumor in 300. Then they said, "Yep, it's a fact" in 1200. And then 200 years later, they're like, "No, it was wrong all along."
yeah. Not unless the guy who created it up just they just made it in the 1200s and they're like, "Oh yeah, look at here. Actually, if you look at this particular document for the last 900 years, the Pope was supposed to be ruling over this place. That makes all the previous emperors decrepit and not worth it." And Julius Caesar was rolling over in his grave, going, "I got stabbed for nothing." Just you know what I want to know is how did the one dude like find because obviously I'm just gonna say this: if the church knew the document was forged, I'm sure they did their best on keeping it hidden, which is why it took so long to find it. How do you suppose this one priest managed to get in and like crack that nut? And what do you think? What do you think kind of pushback he got once he told the people, "Hey, listen up, everybody! This is a bunch of BS."
It's like, hey, I know that you all are my people technically, but this is actually wrong and none of you are my people. I don't
Yeah,
want you guys. Like, please go back to how it was.
and it says he did it using language-based arguments, which I'm guessing means like he found like words or phrases that didn't match up with what they were supposed to say. Modern day equivalent would be like somebody decrypting a text message that was sent in the modern day, but they're still using like, the pager codes from like the 90s. They're like, this can't be a text message because these are pager codes. I just, all right,
Imagine finding
moving on.
out like the US actually didn't send the Declaration of Independence.
It was just some guy named like Steve who was in a ship, and he's like, you know what? I don't want to be ruled by the King of England. I'm gonna just draft this thing up real quick, put a bunch of signatures of famous people I know in the Americas, and
they,
King George, there you go.
they didn't even send it. Like they just wrote it up, but they didn't send it. And it's like, oh yeah, we sent that. Never
their
actually
their
got it.
house their housekeeping found it, and I should mail this for them, and they said, no, and it was all a big mistake. Apparently, I love this next one has a lovely illustration that goes with it. Number two, the woman who gave birth to rabbits.
There's an illustration for that one.
It is. It's sort of like one of those Renaissance things where there's like a whole bunch of people making various like strained faces of like, oh my god, I can't believe I'm witnessing this, and then there's just a bunch of baby rabbits running around the floor. In 1726, a young Mary Toft from Surrey, England, convinced various doctors that she had, after seeing a large rabbit while pregnant, given birth over a period of time to a litter of rabbits. A number of eminent medics, such as the surgeon King George I's royal household, went on to examine some of the animal parts that Toft claimed she'd birthed and declared them as genuine. However, others were skeptical, and after threats of a quote, very painful experiment to see if her claims were genuine, she confessed that she had stuffed the rabbit parts inside of herself. That, Miss Toft, is not how you get a lucky rabbit's foot. That's not how that works.
Um,
Her motive her motivation was unclear. I don't think you need motivation. That's what straitjackets are for. She was imprisoned and then later released. Top was then known as the Rabbit Woman and teased in the press while King George I's medics never fully recovered from the humiliation of declaring her case as genuine.
I wonder why.
Look,
Why
there's a
is there an
lot of,
illustration? First of all.
I don't know. I
Second of
really
all, I
don't.
was about to ask why, like, why? Why would she?
Look, all I'm saying is people in the past were not as dumb as we like to make them out to be. And we all know how
Not as
babies are
dumb?
made. We all know how babies are made. And if you don't, why are you watching this podcast? Second, go ask your parents. And third, I'm sure there was a lot of people around the village that had a lot of questions. Man, Peter Cottontail's had a real pep in his step the last week or two. Yeah, he's been visiting Mary Toph's house.
you know, when we started this podcast, I never thought we would make jokes about Peter Cottontail getting around and
Anything can happen, Joe. This is the
but on
this is the
April
BS
13th, 2025, here we are.
quoted. Ian of the BS Buddies podcast, April 2025. Uh, the Turk, number three, is the Mechanical Chess Master. This one doesn't sound
Oh,
particularly.
I know this one. This one's cool.
How do you know this one?
I know this one.
So, the Turk, also known as the automaton chess player, was a chess playing machine constructed in the late 18th century, which had the uncanny ability to beat everyone it played. It was constructed by Wolfgang von Kempelen, to impress Empress Maria Theresa of Austria and consisted of a mechanical man seated in front of a cabinet who was able to play, amongst other games, a very strong game of chess. From 1770 until it was destroyed by a fire in 1854, it was exhibited by various owners around Europe and the Americas. It played and defeated many people at chess, including Napoleon Bonaparte and Ben Franklin. However, unbeknownst to the audience, the cabinet had a complex clockwork mechanism which allowed a gifted chess player to hide inside. Various chess masters took on the role of the hidden player over the course of the Turks' operation. However, American scientist Silas Mitchell published an article in the Chess Monthly that uncovered the secret, and when the machine was destroyed by fire, there was little need to keep the secret any longer.
Yeah, so I think I watched a short YouTube video on this, and I think there was a way where they could open it so they could show that there was nothing in there. But
Like a probably like a false backing
yeah, it
or
was something
something.
like that, but or like it only showed like half of it, half of the inside. So there was like a small person on the other side
Okay.
who could stay hidden.
Yeah.
And I think it did lose like a handful of times, but like it won like hundreds upon hundreds of chess matches. And yeah, there was a way that they could tell what the opponent was doing from underneath.
Hmm.
I
And
can't
then
quite
I
remember. It
suppose
was
they could.
very in depth on like how it worked and
That's very intricate. Imagine trying to design that thing, and then on top of that, not only design all them inputs, but being able to hide a chess master who could play in there as well. Napoleon would have been pissed if he found out. You think Napoleon ever found out about it? He'd been really mad. He'd have been like, I demand a rematch against the charred remains of the mechanical chess thing. All right. The next one here, we're about halfway through. We have the discovery of the Cardiff Giant. In 1869, workers digging a well at a farm in Cardiff, New York, discovered what appeared to be the body of an ancient, 10-foot tall, petrified man. Holy moly. It caused a public sensation and duped scientists into thinking that the so called Cardiff Giant was historically significant. Crowds flocked to see the giant, and some scientists speculated that it was indeed an ancient petrified man, while others suggested that it was a centuries-old statue made by uh, Jesuit priests.
sure.
In reality, it was the brainchild of George Hull, a New York cigar manufacturer and atheist who had argued with a pastor about a passage from the book, or excuse me, had argued with a pastor about a passage from the book of Genesis that claimed there were once giants who roamed the earth. To both poke fun at the pastor and make some money, Hull had sculptors in Chicago produce a human figure from a huge slab of gypsum. He then had a farmer friend bury it on his land, and then commissioned some workers to dig a well in the same area. Esteemed paleontologist Othniel Charles Marsh said, typo on the website, shame, said that the giant was of very recent origin and a most decided humbug. And in 1870, the hoax was finally exposed when the sculptors confessed. Wow.
So I gotta say this. Imagine if they found it in the Holy Land. It's like I did we found
We
Goliath.
found him! We found him. It's Goliath. Keep digging around here. David's got to be around here somewhere. We found Goliath. And you'd like the dude who had it made to just like, here, put this stone in his forehead. Just like, yeah, right there. Bing, cool. Just keep that stone right there. It'll really sell the whole bit. How petty
But
do you
yeah.
have to be?
Well, wasn't he a New Yorker? That sounds about right.
Yeah, New York cigar manufacturer. So that's a 2-for-1 right there.
Yeah, that
I wonder what
sounds like a New York thing.
I'm very curious how much time went into the preparation because obviously sculpting something like that. And granted, they just said it was vaguely humanoid. They didn't say it had a lot of detailed features. So maybe the sculpting wouldn't have taken as long as you thought. But I mean, clearly you would think that if you just buried a statue in that area, and then you're like, hey, I need a well team to go out here and dig in a well, they'd be like, wow, all this dirt is like freshly churned. It's like freshly dug. There's no growth here, nothing. So you think like he buried it and then waited a year and then told them? Like he just put it on his calendar in the future and he's like, all right, in a year's time, this is gonna be a great joke.
Plant some grass seed and just take care of that to make it look like it
He
was
just
never touched. And did
and then
did he have to dig a 10-foot hole, 10 foot by whatever depth, by
yeah, how
himself
could
without being caught?
you just have some close friends do it for him? Jeez.
Bravo to him that no one
It says he
saw
had a
what he did.
farmer. It says he had a farmer friend bury it. I hope he paid at farmer friend handsomely for that. If you want me to dig a hole big enough for this statue, you're gonna need to pay up, bud.
And then hush money on top of that.
Yeah, talk about that. But then it was revealed like not even a year later. It says in 1870 when the sculptors confessed. Oh, the sculptors of all people. Oh, number 5, the golden tiara of Cytopherne. I'm not quite sure how to say that. In 1896, the famous Louvre Museum in Paris paid a Russian antiquities dealer some 200,000 francs, or about $50,000, for a golden Greco-Scythian tiara. It was celebrated as a 3rd century BC masterpiece of the Hellenistic period. They're really killing me with the word salad today, dude. And was believed to have been a Greek gift to the Scythian king Cytophernes. Must be Cytophernes. Scholars soon began questioning the tiara's authenticity, which featured scenes from the Iliad. However, the museum denied all chances of it being a fake. Eventually, Louvre officials learned that the tiara had likely been crafted just a year earlier by a goldsmith named Israel. Wow, that's Russian. Rauchamovsky from Odessa, Ukraine. He was summoned to Paris in 1903, where he was questioned and replicated parts of the crown. Rauchamovsky claimed that he had been clueless that the art dealers who commissioned him had fraudulent intentions. Rather than ruining his reputation, his clear talent for design and goldsmithing sparked a huge demand for his work.
Good for him.
What a win for that dude!
Not for the Louvre, but good for that dude.
Imagine like making this golden crown thing. Like these guys are like, oh yeah, here we we wanna put this on display in like a museum piece as like a part of like art display or blah blah blah. And they're just like, sure, yeah, it sounds great. I'll make a little gold tiara thing, and you ship it off. And he's got no way to get news to where he's at from Paris. So then for like the next 7 years of your life, you're just like, yeah, I'm resting pretty well on this money I made from making that tiara. And then you get a letter one day that says, hey, you need to come here now because this thing's a fake. And you're like, of course it's a fake. I made it. What do you mean? What? Like it's
What do
not.
you
I
mean
didn't
it's
fake.
fake? It's like they asked me to make them a tiara, didn't they? It's like, well, they're saying it's from the 3rd century. It's like, what? I made it for them
Yeah.
last year.
and then and then once you confirm, you're like, yeah, no, I made this thing for them. And then everyone's like, you did a really good job, man. We all thought it actually was from the 3rd century. Can we buy more of that? Like, what a win for that dude. Ah, okay. We got 2 left. Number 6, the Cottingley Ferries. In 1917, boy, in the heart of World War One. Two young cousins, Elsie Wright and Francis Griffiths, caused a public sensation. They were 9 and 16, respectively. They caused a public sensation when they shot a series of garden photos with fairies in them in Cottingley, England. Elsie's
I
mother
feel like I've heard of
immediately
this.
believed Elsie's mother immediately believed that the photographs were real, and they were soon declared genuine by experts. The Cottingley fairies quickly became an international sensation. They even caught the eye of famed writer Sir Arthur Conan Doyle, who used them to illustrate an article about fairies he had been commissioned to write for the Strand magazine. Doyle was a spiritualist and eagerly believed that the photographs were real. Public reaction was less in agreement. Some believed they were true, others believed they had been faked. After 1921, wow, 4 years, interest in the photographs declined. The girls married and lived abroad. However, in 1966, a reporter found, now it says Elise. Is it Elise or Elsie? Which one is it? I'm gonna go with Elsie because that's how it's spelled the first two times. Man, this article sucks. Terrible proofreading. This is the real hoax. Is the proofreading in this article. A reporter found Elsie, who stated that she thought it possible she had photographed her thoughts. By the early 1980s, however, the cousins confessed that the fairies were once again Elsie's drawings secured in the ground with pins. However, they still claim that the fifth and final photograph was real. Okay, then.
Like,
And they have
yeah, as you were
so again,
reading it, I was looking it up, and like it would look like if I Photoshop something.
yeah, I mean it's
Like,
pretty you can they're so bright. Like the way that the fairies look in the picture is so bright, it's like jarringly out of place.
yeah, it they're cool photos, but it looks like they just had like a porcelain little fairy thing just put somewhere.
I guess it was just like some drawings that they must have done on some paper and
They
then they
were,
just cut perfectly around the outline.
yeah,
Very
they
well
did a
done.
good job. For
Fantastically well
1917,
done.
it looks awesome.
All
I
right.
wonder if
And
they're in a
then
museum.
that would be really cool if they were. God, imagine how many hoaxes have existed in history that we don't know about. Like in a Sears copper. That one we do know about, but the memes. The memes. All right. Our seventh and final one, Francis Drake's plate of brass. I feel like this is going to relate to Uncharted somehow. In 1936, in Northern California, a brass plate, which was supposedly engraved with Francis Drake's claim to California, quickly became the state's greatest historic treasure. It was thought to have been left in 1579 by the explorer and the crew of the Golden Hind when they landed on the coast and claimed the territory for England. The artifact went on to be featured in museums and school textbooks and was exhibited around the globe. However, in 1977, researchers conducted scientific analysis of the plate in the lead up to the 400th anniversary of Drake's landing. Okay, okay, I see. And discovered that it was fake and had been produced recently. It was unclear as to who was behind the forgery until, in 2003, historians announced that it had been created as part of a practical joke by acquaintances of Herbert Bolton, a history professor at the University of California. Bolton had been taken in by the forgery, judged it as authentic, and acquired it for the school. Can you imagine being those guys who forged that thing? Hey, watch, it's gonna be funny for him, and then you see him. This is an authentic piece, and it goes on to make like national news, and you're looking at your buddy like, dude, do we tell him? Do we tell them? We like, no, we don't say anything, man. Are you kidding? They'll lock us up and throw us in prison for this.
That
Oh
that's
man.
just mean. That's really the only thing I got. Going back to the Cottingley fairies, they have the camera on display at a museum.
Oh, do they? Was it like one of those gigantic things?
No, it's
It's just like a little 35 millimeter.
yeah, this is very
Hey,
small. Yeah, the only comment I have is like that's just mean. I don't got any jokes. I was more interested in figuring out the fairy photos.
you know, I will say this. Part of me does laugh because you look at the picture and you're just like, how in the world could they have thought that that was real? But on the other hand, I guess not that photography was a necessarily new technology, but back then it was a lot harder to fake things in a photo. You know what I mean? So, oh, This actually kind of reminds me of one that I think I know about, and I don't know if I'm like misremembering this or what, but I think I remember a story of there was a person way back when who used these old like flash bulb style cameras who claimed that they could like reconnect loved ones with their deceased family members or whatever, and they would like prove that they were still here with him through spiritual medium and photography. And what they would do is that they would ask for, a couple of personal effects from the deceased or whoever was parted. And one of the things would always be a picture. Do you have a picture of the loved one that you've lost or whatever? And then what the person would do is they would, the one who was still alive, who came to the spiritual medium, they would take a picture of them. And then while the film was developing, they would like lightly superimpose the photo of the deceased loved one like over the top of the other photo as it was developing. So then once the photo that they took was fully developed, you sort of had this like faint outline of
It's
the
kind of cool.
deceased person in the background, and then they would say like, "Oh, look, see, they're right here by your side." And it was something along those lines, and maybe I'm pulling this out of thin air, but I feel like I remember hearing or seeing something about that at one point. So
I mean, that's kind of cool. I hope they said, "Hey, this is what we're gonna do," and it's not like they're saying, "I have a magic camera that'll."
you know what, Joe? Let's you and me do a hoax. I'll take a picture of you and Photoshop you to be like 30 feet tall, and then we can be like, look, Goosebumps is real. Joe was 30 feet tall for a day. And then like I'll like Photoshop myself to look like I'm like leaning against your leg or something. Will be like, it's real. You have to believe us.
I would laugh too much if I got cautioned on it. Um,
Yeah, I could never pull off a hoax.
since I remember this time, let's do quotes. It's been a while.
It has been a while. Now that we've got it on our mind, I thought of it actually at the beginning of the episode, but I hadn't said anything because I was like, I'll wait till the end. But you beat me to it, Joe.
I got a quote from Warren Buffett. Someone is sitting in the shade today because someone planted a tree a long time ago. He's a big investor.
You
That's why
don't say.
that's why Acorns was made. Grow your oak, as they say. We're not sponsored by Acorns, but I wish we were. I'd talk them up.
Sponsored by Acorns. Squirrels approve this message.
Now, we just
Speaking of
talked about
nuts, there we go
hoaxes.
again.
We just talked about hoaxes, but we are sponsored by an investing company.
This investment firm has decided that conspiracies are the way to go. Base all your hedge money on conspiracies. Leave everything to chance. Put it all on red. Mine, I will go with unknown Hanlon's razor. Never attribute to malice what can be adequately explained by stupidity. I think that's a great one. That applies to many situations.
And with that, thank you for BSing with us today. Um, if you have any other hoaxes that are your favorites, let us know down below. And subscribe to Become a Bud today, and we will see you next time when we talk about different phobias.
World's a scary place out there, but don't sweat. Just take her easy now.